Welcome to KidMissing TV. Hello and welcome to KidMissing TV. This is our 14th installment. Before we get started, I have some updates to give you. First off, I am very happy to announce that Baby Doe has a name. Her name was Bella Bond. Her mother and her mother's boyfriend have been arrested for her murder and for covering up her murder. Mother's in jail on $1 million bond and no bond for the boyfriend. Wonderful news. Also, another update. I've been keeping you informed of the fast-moving Lion Sisters case. On July 10th, 2015, the search warrants that were issued were unsealed. Media got to look at them so they learned what law enforcement was looking for in their searches. And on July 15th, Lloyd Welch was indicted for first-degree murder in the case of Sheila and Catherine Lyon. Now we just need to get his uncle into court and indicted. And we also need to find those bodies. Maybe now, to save his own skin, he'll say exactly where they are so her parents, their parents, can bury them once and for all. I also have an update on the case of Kimberly Morrow from Jay, Maine. As I told you when we talked about this case before, I am very familiar with the area. A new cold case unit has finally been formed in the state of Maine after a lot of fighting and a major grassroots effort that I'm proud to say I was a big part of, and my page on Facebook. Kimberly Morrow Missing from Jay, Maine was also a big part of. And they have opened Kimmy's case, and a new lead brought them to search at the property of one of the folks that she was last seen with. Most of them are dead. He is not. He is a person of interest, and her dad, Dick Morrow, said he wants to bury his daughter before his time is up. That's so sad. Another search, as they did not find, they're not saying exactly what they found, but they didn't find remains at the original search. So another search where they have said bring your shovels, your metal detectors, your spades, will take place Saturday, which is September 26th. I think that's great. I know that they've had metal detectorists there before, and they've searched. They will give out metal detectors to people who don't have them to search. And I just think that's a great thing. They should have the diggers come in. They're from National Geographic. KG, which stands for King George Wyant, and the ringmaster, Tim Saylor, who are professional detectorists, my opinion. Today on the show, we are going to focus on the Deep South, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. Jerry Lee Armstrong disappeared from Hernando, Mississippi, December 23rd, 1977. Jerry Lee was 17 years old. He had gone to the Christmas dance at school with his girlfriend, and from there, he never came home. He disappeared. His brother believes, and I think authorities also believe, he was killed in a case of mistaken identity. That he was mistaken for a close friend of his who was dating a Caucasian female at the time. Jerry Lee was African American. And that just did not go over well in that part of this country in that time period. Some people there are still not thrilled about the idea. And they believe that that is what cost him his life, although they cannot find his remains. They do believe that he is gone, and they desperately want to find someone who knows something to help them find this boy and bring him home to his brother once and for all. If you have any information about Jerry Lee Armstrong, you can call the DeSoto County Sheriff's Department at 662-429-1470 or the DeSoto County Crime Stoppers at 662-429-8477. Lee Maureen Oki, I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly, disappeared on August 27th, 1992. She was 13 years old, and she vanished from Tupelo, Mississippi. She was last at her home. When her mother got home, she found a mother's worst nightmare. I cannot even begin to imagine. She found garage door open, blood down the hall, blood all over the rugs, blood all over her daughter's nightgown, and her daughter was not there. Police are pretty sure she was killed. Oh, and there was blood on the bathroom counter and a bunch of door frames and walls, too. Anybody imagine walking into that? The only items missing from the house were her shoes, her underwear, and her reading glasses. Oddly, her reading glasses were mailed back to her mother about a month later from Boonville, Mississippi, which is about a half an hour north of Tupelo. Police thought it was odd because there was no signs of forced entry and no real signs of, struggle. So she obviously knew the person and trusted the person that she let into the home. They know that the blood was type O, which was Lee's type, but it was very early in the DNA process, so they never got DNA. And her nightgown is also in evidence. If you have any information that could lead to Lee or her abductor/killer, please call Tupelo Police Department, Major Sergeant Jamie Harper, 662-841-6546. Daphne Sharika Tullis disappeared on July 26, 1988 from Jackson, Mississippi. She was just 7 years old. Daphne had a seizure disorder and required medication, which of course she didn't have on her. So that is a concern for her safety and well-being. She had a little tiff with her mom about fish sticks, and she walked out of the house. She walked down Azalea Drive toward Northside Drive. Her mother's been eliminated as a suspect, and in 2014, police turned their attention to a family friend who had been arrested on a sexual battery charge and released on the day that Daphne vanished. Police have gone to New Orleans, all the way up to Michigan, in searching for Daphne. A Jackson police spokesperson told the newspaper they consider it to be a cold case, but if new information comes out, detectives will take another look at this disappearance. Please, let's give them a reason to take a look at it. If you know anything about the disappearance of Daphne Sharika Tullis, please call the Jackson Police Department Missing Persons Unit at 601-960-1234. Madeline Teresa Midge Pons disappeared on November 20th, 1986 from Columbus, Mississippi. She was 17 years old. She was last seen at the convenience store where she worked, called PJ's One Stop. It was on the eastbound side of Highway 82 in Columbus. It was right near the Alabama state line. $600 was missing from the cash register, but all of her belongings were there. Her purse, all of her her car, all of her valuables that were in her purse. And she planned to enter the armed forces after graduation. She's just gone. Evidently somebody robbed the store and abducted her. In 2010, a new investigative team sent a camera down a well to try to, based on tips, leads, see if her remains were in the well. It wasn't a real conclusive result because I couldn't see very well, evidently, but the dogs also did not hit on the well, so they don't think she's down there. They were asked by media why it took them so long to go down there, and they said, we didn't have the technology. Didn't have these cameras, didn't have canines 24 years ago when this happened, to be able to do this. So that's why it wasn't done. If you have any information about Madeline Pons, and keep in mind this happened between the hours of 20:55 and 21:10, when her friend talked to her at the store and when another customer found the store unattended. If you have any information, please call the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Lieutenant Greg Wright, 662-328-6788. Sherry Lynn Marler disappeared on June 6, 1984 from Greenville, Alabama. She was 12 years old. She went downtown with her stepdad. He went into the bank to sign some papers, and she said, can I go across the street and get something to drink? He gave her $1. She went to get something to drink. When he returned to his truck, she was not there. First, he was kind of upset, as any parent would be. Where the heck is she? What's the holdup, And as a little more time went by, anger turned to fear. Where is she? What happened to her? Just before he died, he told her mother, as he lay dying, he said, I'm sorry. One thing that I never got to bring Sherry home to you is the one thing I wanted to do, He is in no way a suspect in this case. In fact, there are no suspects in this case, as far as I know, or persons of interest. The mother in 2010 opened a restaurant in her daughter's name. You can learn more about that online. Her mother has her own blog. If you have any information about the whereabouts of Sherry Lynn Marler, please call the Greenville Police Department Missing Persons Unit, Detective Wink Fussell, at 334-382-7461 or 1-800-THE-LOST, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Tarasha Pooh Benjamin disappeared on June 26, 2010. She was 17 years old and she vanished from Selma, Alabama. She walked out of her home. She's described as wearing short denim shorts, a white short sleeve shirt with lime and purple stripes. That's an interesting picture in my head. She was wearing her hair in a ponytail. She had a tattoo on her upper right arm of the word Pooh, her nickname. The family never received any calls from her. She usually checked in several times a day. So they found this to be strange and worrisome. They attempted to call her and it went right to voicemail, even more worrisome. Detective Sergeant Tori Neely described the leads in the case as a spider web with threads that come out. Now, I don't know if he means they're all connected to each other in some way, but that's how he described it. A documentary is being made about this case. You can go to Tarasha Pooh Benjamin on Facebook, the page for the documentary, and learn more about that. The release date has not been set. As soon as one is, I'll bring it to you here. Like I said, you can also get that information on Facebook. If you have any information about the disappearance of Tarasha Pooh Benjamin, you can call the Selma Police Department at 334-874-2134. Mississippi Delta Dawn. It's an unidentified murdered baby that was found below the I-10 bridge in the Dog River in Pascagoula, Mississippi on December 6, 1982. She was between 18 months and 2 years of age. What I'd like to do now is play you a clip of my radio show where I talked to Lynn Reyes. You've heard me talk about Lynn Reyes before when we talked about the case of little Danny Barter, because she got me involved in that case as well. I'd like to play right now a clip of Lynn talking about the background of this case from my radio show, KidMissing Radio. I was privileged to have her on.
Which of the composites is she said to look most like? I think it's the...
it's the original color one, the one where she's wearing the pink dress. You know, with the curly hair.
Yeah, with the curly hair.
Yeah, I think she's got like a little blue bow on the dress. That one is the one that Virgil, he's the police officer who adopted her in her death. Yeah. And he said that she looks just like that. He said you can't get any closer to how she looks.
The child was found after a trucker had reported seeing a woman's body floating. That woman's body was never recovered, and that trucker's been questioned many times, and he's still, I don't know if he's a person of interest, but he's an interesting character, nonetheless, in the story. And could he be a suspect? Could he be a person of interest? Yeah, why not? It is believed that she was either thrown off the bridge or put where she was, in the water and floated where she was found, or something along those lines. Now, it's been questioned whether she would have had multiple broken bones from being thrown 40 feet to the water below. I guess it depends. If she was already dead, she'd been floppy and her body might not have suffered trauma. But it's all speculation because nobody really knows. A woman and a child were seen, however, a couple of days before the gruesome discovery was made on the bridge. The first place that they were seen was a truck stop, and they were seen walking down the highway, offered rides multiple times, refused. The woman seemed really distressed. She ended up on the Alabama state line at a weigh station for trucks. Why police didn't pull her off the highway, I don't know. Because I know when we broke down and my mother went to walk on the highway and we were right at an exit, the state troopers were there before we even knew what the heck to do. So, she barely closed the door. But I guess every state is different. That was in New Hampshire. She has been given a couple of different memorials. In 1982, her original memorial was attended by 200 people. She's buried at the Jackson County Memorial Park with a beautiful stone. One of the officers who was investigating, one of the detectives, saw her body and was so taken aback by her because she looked precisely like his daughter, that he actually called to find out if his daughter was okay because he wasn't so sure he wasn't looking at his own child. That's just, wow. She was again memorialized, as I mentioned, by Lynn Rios and another woman. And a woman showed up at this memorial, was crying, acting like she might have known the child. Upon further investigation, they find that she didn't. What I'd like to do now is play you the second clip. The second clip is Lynn talking about the state of the little girl's body. It's nothing gross. She's just talking about what they noticed when they got there.
When they found her, only thing is, because they had been on the road, I'm assuming, was her belly, she didn't have any food in it. So,
Right.
You know, so, but other than that, they said she looked healthy. You know, no bruises or anything, no abuse. You know, she was just hungry.
Well, as you heard, our little girl's tummy was empty. And we believe that her tummy was empty for any number of reasons. She didn't look malnourished. I mean, you can look at both of the pictures that I have, both of the composites, and they say that the second composite with the little ribbon is the more accurate composite to what she looked like in life. As a matter of fact, one of the officers and his wife sort of adopted her and called her Baby Jane. They gave her a proper Christian burial, that's a wonderful thing to do. It's so special. But we need to give her real name back. We need to find out who would do this to this baby. And the fact that our own baby doll was identified this week, this baby could be identified too. Her DNA is in the system. It's in CODIS. She is listed all over the internet. You can also go to her page on Facebook called Mississippi Delta Dawn. That name was given to her by Lynn Rios. She is called Baby Jane or Baby Doe by the police department. And the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has also adopted Delta Dawn as her name. If you have any information about Delta Dawn and who she really was, you can call the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, Captain Curtis Spires, at 228-769-3306, or the Jackson County Medical Examiner's Office at 228-769-3197. This is our blast from the past. You know, a lot of times today people say, oh, we have so many more abductions and child murders, and not necessarily, and that's what this is to illustrate. This man was a serial child killer from 1924 to 1934 in New York City. His name was Albert Fish. He was executed in Sing Sing in 1936 in the electric chair. And based on what I know about this man, he probably enjoyed it. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer fella. You know, I say that, and I don't advocate the death penalty whatsoever, but oh boy, this guy deserved it if anybody did. His first known victim was Grace Budd. He took this child when he discovered that the boy that had placed an ad on May 25th, 1928, looking for work, was too old and too big and too strong for him, as a 60-year-old man, to overpower and do the things he wanted to do. So he set his sights on the younger sister. He took her and he killed her. I hate to, and I don't want to get specific here, but he cannibalized her. He sent a horrible letter to her mother that just turns my stomach to read, about, you know, detailing his cannibalism of her. And if you want to read it, please go online, look up Albert Fish, and you will find transcripts of that letter. It's too horrible to even imagine. I guess tiny pieces were found when they went to the abandoned home where he did his deed, and started searching, and they found, a few other, some butcher's implements and a few other items. Billy Gaffney was taken on February 11th, 1927. His little friend had described a boogeyman. And until police went back to July of 1924 to the case of Francis Xavier McDonald, nobody was listening to this little boy and realized he was taken by the same person. The boogeyman, or the gray man, as Fish was known. As I mentioned, he kind of creeped out his neighbors. There were other possible victims. These are the three that police are almost 100% sure he did, and they know he took Grace. Were in 1927, Yetta Abramowitz, who was 12. Her body was found. She was strangled and beaten on the rooftop of a 5-story apartment building. Ew. In 1932, Mary Ellen O'Connor, age 16, her mutilated body was also found near a house that Fish had been painting. And Benjamin Collings, age 17. I don't know that he did the 17-year-old boy because, again, he didn't want to do the 18-year-old brother of Grace Budd because he wasn't sure he could. Although his preference seemed to be males, he didn't discriminate. Again, I have the letter here. I'm not going to read to you what he wrote to her because it's too horrible for words, and just stomach turning, truthfully. So again, if you want to read it, go to the websites. I also highly recommend the book about him called Boogeyman, I think that's what it's called. And definitely read that if you can stomach it. This goes to show you that kids were abducted back in the day. They were unfortunately killed also. So it's not a today thing. It's an always thing. In fact, my mother goes through the old newspaper archives and is amazed at the number that she finds. And that's why I wanted to bring you this case, not to disturb you, but to show you that it happens, and it happened then. That this is not a new phenomenon, sadly. Thank you for joining me on this episode of KidMissing TV. I'm still very excited to be able to bring you these cases and these shows, and even more excited now that people are actually coming up to me in public and asking me when I'm going to do another show. That is the coolest thing that has ever happened to me, and I thank you all for that. Good night. Have a safe evening and rest of your week. God bless you.